Welcome everybody to Alternative Interactions. I'm Gary, and you join me on another update and babble. Again, I can't remember what number this is, but first of all, a bit of housekeeping. Thank you very much for all the new subscribers who have joined. Really do appreciate it. I tend to do a walk and a babble once a week or so if I can, if not more, and sometimes we'll do a full show just walking out in nature. It's why be stuck in front of a computer when you can have a good walk and get in nature. So a big warm welcome to all the new members of the family. Thank you very, very much appreciated, and big ups to Isabella, of course. For those of you who are new, who are sort of like interested in some of the kind of back catalogue I've got, I guess I call it, the old shows. Obviously there's all the Rocking Pandora's box stuff we do with Richard. I've actually put them all in one playlist. They're not sequential in order, but they're all there. So you know, I don't know how to make them sequential. It's apart from take them all out and redo them all again. So I may at some point have to do that. But yeah, while we're on the subject of Richard, obviously Richard had a power cut on our last Pandora's box. Didn't really spoil the show, but it probably ended about 20 minutes, half an hour earlier than we didn't plan to. And we obviously had a couple of announcements we wanted to make, which we never got the opportunity to. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to do a quick video together with some announcements of what's coming for next Sunday's show. And it's going to be very, very different to the normal, and there's going to be competition or competitions. So yeah, look out for that one tomorrow. We're going to be dropping that at some point when we record it tomorrow. That'll be done fairly quickly, and yeah, please get involved on the Sunday show, because it's going to be a live. So but I'll leave the rest for us to have a guess later on. But yeah, so tomorrow that'll be coming out. I potentially got another collaboration later in the week with Maten of Plutonic Planes, and we'll be looking at something astrologically wise, some connections to some stuff that I've been working on. Now for those that are new to the show, or to me, who come over from Isabella, like I say, I've got a back catalogue. I've got quite a bit of Tartaria stuff there. I've got a little bit of mud flood stuff there. The Tartaria stuff, I don't do that much of it because Martin Ladicki and Campbell Autodidactic do such great stuff, and they're pumping that all the time, you know. And even though I was around at the time of the Tartarian inception, so when Martin Ladicki first came up with the Tartaria concept and all that, I was around and there basically on his shoulder. Very interesting time. So I've got quite a bit of knowledge of that, and I've dropped a few videos which I think are different, you know, different from the norm Tartaria wise. Some's just an introduction, but I also do quite a bit on frequency, which is collected to Tartaria, and that also connects through to the crystalline code and the Fibonacci sequence stuff that I've done. Some of it's groundbreaking, even though I don't want to be egotistical about it, but no one's put some of the stuff together that I have, and it's really interesting about the double slit, the waveform from that interference pattern, the ions or the atoms and how they work within the CRIS code system, and how the Fibonacci is a third-party control mechanism, and who's responsible for that. And I actually look at a guy called Janus, very interesting stuff. I mean, I've kind of stepped back from it for a while again, but the initial slideshow, just the basic stuff without just the bare bones, is 90 slides. And then if I put all the bones on it, it's probably a 200 to 250 slide show. And something like that would be a 5-hour presentation. So I've got to put it all together and then break it up into manageable slots. I will get onto that in the future. But it's led to some very interesting places, surprising places, and well worth checking out. So the sacred geometry one, the psyop of all that, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting how we've been deceived. It's that kind of stuff is really interesting. Obviously I've got some higher brow stuff for those of you who want to kind of know why I feel the way I do about the end game, and why I'm so chilled out about everything, and kind of want to understand where I come from, really, with my knowings and thoughts and what I was shown in the early days. Check out the Operation Looking Glass video I did, 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago, something like that. And the Operation Looking Glass video is a cracker. And hopefully that will give you an understanding, a bit of and clarity on where we are, because the outcome is certain. It's just how we get there. There you go. I don't know if you can hear that. Little birdie in the tree, and that's the whole point of me walking. It's real, isn't it? I've obviously got all the collabs with Sonia, Gordon. I mean, the ayahuasca one, it's not for me. I'm not ever going to do it. I know you should say never ever, but I would be very, very surprised if I ever went and did ayahuasca. And I think the majority of you have got no interest in it. That's fair play. But it's a very, very interesting interview where you're going to learn a lot about something, and it's a good knowledge-based one. Even if it's not your cup of tea, I think it's a very good knowledge-based one, and Gordon's a good bloke. I will be doing more stuff with Gordon in the future. I'll be doing more stuff with Sonia from the Tree of Knowledge in the future, and obviously Richard and Meten from Platonic Planes. Please check him out. Fairly early on in my coming on, Meten and I did a couple of lives. The first live is only available on Meten's channel. The second live is on my channel as well. And the first live, I think it took about 5 minutes to get going, so it's a bit of a. The second live was a bit smoother, and it's only a minute or two wasted before we get going. It's about a 2.5 hour talk. And for those of you that really want to stretch your brains and listen to some of the concepts that we were, and again, time moves on very quickly, or consciousness does, and so it's a talk that goes into some really deep conceptual points, And for those of you who want to have your ears running out of your brain, sorry, running out of your ears, that's quite a good one. Basically, we just let loose on what we believe the conceptual nature of this reality is, and there's a slideshow that explains what we're talking about. So they're some of the highlights, really, some of the good ones that I think you might enjoy on the channel. So yeah. Now that bit's over with and everyone's switched off, I'm just left with the hardcore. Thank you very much for staying with me. Let's have a little bit of babble now. You know, we wasted 10 minutes really, but I think it's important that we say hello and you guys know that there's a good back catalogue of work there that's really worth looking at. You know, particularly the sacred geometry and the Janus work with the crystalline code, Chris code. It's very, very important. It's part of the 3D and 5D matrix and the separation of, and I'm showing it in a mathematical kind of way, provable way, rather than the cards or people just talking about it. And sometimes we like to see a bit of proof, and I think that's the one. So a few news items, a few things that are there. I mean, going back to the amazing Isabella, she did an Epstein video, and I got nothing more to add on that one. Really amazing. Just sit back, guys, and wait. Remember, observe but do not absorb. Everybody losing their shit. Excuse the language, but everybody losing it. Jumping up and down. Sharing stuff that's really inappropriate, to be fair, about certain people. Some of it's quite interesting, mind you, but it's just not necessary. It doesn't. What does it achieve? I suppose is what I'm trying to say. What does it achieve? Has it enlightened you? Has it enlightened your soul? What did you get out of it vibrationally, frequency wise? Do you feel better for looking at it? You know, it's our own personal journey, of course, but I'm not interested in going any deeper than I did. I have my views on it, you know. He's still alive as far as I'm concerned. I think the body that they showed was some relative of the Clintons from when I was doing my deep diving. Just happened to look like him, so they did the swap, you know. The guy's still alive. Maxwell's sitting in prison for trafficking children to nobody. You know, it's all part of the game. I don't know what the game plan is, but I know the outcome. So it doesn't matter. It's fine. But don't, you know, if you're going to look at it, just observe it, don't absorb it. Don't get emotionally attached to any of this, because it isn't going to serve you. It really isn't going to serve you in any way, really, shape or form that's beneficial, in my opinion. But as I said, it's your journey. You guys do what you feel. But remember, you know, your gut and your heart. Is your gut telling you that it's a beneficial thing to do? Too easily we get drawn in and sucked into these things and knee-jerk reaction. And I forget who it was that said this, but I said when something drops, give it 24, 48 hours and then comment on it or then react to it. Very wise words and things that we do struggle with, you know, the mindfulness of what's going on with the externalisation of taking our energy away from us. So and I am a big one about externalisation of our energy, giving our energy away for free. It's how we've kind of been brainwashed and developed over the years, and everything you need is here. Everything here is inside you. You're everything. You're the whole. The external is only a game, distraction from the work that you need to do or not. It's up to you. You know, you're in charge. And that's the whole point. You know, though, I'm just a bloke walking down with a selfie stick in the middle of a forest, expressing what I've learnt on my journey. Beautiful butterfly on the floor. I don't know if you can you see that, guys? I don't know if you can see it. There we go. I don't know if you picked it up. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm just a bloke walking down a track in a forest, surrounded by nature, telling you what I've learnt during my journey. It's not rocket science, it just is, you know. And I'm no messiah, no icon, you know, I'm just me, just a bloke. No better than anybody, but nobody's better than me either. And that's the same with you, lovely famille. Everyone watching, you're all amazing, all of you. You're divine power, all of you. And all of you are going to have a very important role in the future. Every single one of you. Even if you can't see it at the moment, even if you don't quite understand what that path is, the path will become aware. It's going to open up. That path is going to open up in the future, and you guys are you're going to do things. You're going to change people's lives, and for the better. So, you know, every single one of you is important. Nobody's better than you, and you are better than nobody else. We're all one, and we're all connected. We're all one consciousness fundamentally. But when we bring the love in it, that shatters their low vibrational frequency. So there we go. So something that I posted on my Telegram channel. I have a Telegram channel, Alternative Interactions. The lovely Jolanda will often post my stuff onto Tarot by Isabella. So a lot of the stuff that I post goes on there anyway, so you know there's no need to join my channel really, because it all goes on Isabella. But there is some stuff that I think Jolanda doesn't share that can sometimes be a bit close to the mark, or it's prudent to something I've been saying, or a little dive, you know, images. But the banking situation is warming up quite nicely. We see that silver has broken out a little bit, but the cartel has stumped on the silver price yet again before it really started to fly. But the coinage wise in the UK is the highest I've ever seen it. It did go for, you know, not that I've been following silver for a very long time, don't get me wrong, but 4 years or so, 3 or 4 years, 4 years. So so I've been interested in money, in silver, gold. I mean, I've always been interested in the financial system, but it's one of those deep dives. Every time you do some research, I like to find out who paid for what, where the money came. Nothing happens without this bit of coinage, you know, nothing. The old wind's picking up now. What I think I'll do is turn around, and the wind will be on my back, so hopefully it won't affect the microphone. Yeah, so nothing happens without a bit of coin. And when we look at the coinage and who's behind it all, it's always the same old faces, same old group of people. Casarian Mafia. Just use that as a round term. It's a generic term. Every now and again I'll do something which is like I say, I've got the teeth out. You know, I should really post a picture of a dog snarling with its teeth. And, the sacred geometry one, or the New Age psyop geometry, sacred geometry type thing, that certainly was a teeth out one. But every now and again I do take the old teeth, a snarl, and you kind of get it a bit more, and I push my luck on the on what I say, you know, every now and again, not often, because this platform obviously is not conducive for that. But it's the same people fundamentally behind everything, and has been for the last X amount of hundreds of years, 400 years, 500 years. I mean, the UK was taken over in the early 1600s, fundamentally, lock, stock and barrel, by the Casarian Mafia. And from that stage onwards, nothing has happened that hasn't been orchestrated or controlled or infiltrated. Sounds a bit terrible, really, doesn't it? But it's been a drip, drip, drip process, you know. It's like the frog. If you drop the frog in boiling water, it's going to jump straight out. If you stick the frog in cold water and turn the heat very, very low, the frog will never realise it's in trouble until it's too late. That's kind of where we are at the moment, isn't it? You know, will the frog jump out or won't it jump out, you know? Well, spoiler alert, the frog is going to jump out. But the money situation is getting really interesting. The Bank of Japan's bond selling rates have gone up. America's have as well, and the UK. I mentioned these three because they're pretty key to the markets. Three big players, and the cost of refinancing the debt. See, this was what, as a kid, told about the debt. Well, who do we owe the debt to? Everyone's in debt, so why don't they just write it off and we start again? I don't understand, you know, as a kid. Same people, isn't it? Same old people, the old KM. Tangent, let's have a tangent. Briefly spoke about slavery on one of the shows. And obviously it's not what we've been told and taught. When you really start looking into it, you know, ditch the official books and start really digging. Find the old books of the day. You know, was it the American Civil War, the American War of Independence, to free the slaves? What a joke. It was a land grab, fundamentally by the KM Mafia via the UK. And what happened is they slaughtered the white landowners of the South, freed the blacks, and gave them land to farm with no way of farming unless they went to the Casarian Mafia and got loans out to farm. And of course they all went to the Casarian Mafia, got their loans, and then the Casarian Mafia played with the price point of all the goods that they were selling, crashed all the farm prices, meant that the loans couldn't be paid back. Black farmers defaulted. The Casarian Mafia walked in and took all the land. That's just one of them. It's just one of the little things, you know, you might want to look into, you know. There was you know, we talk about slave ships. There was a village in the Southern Island. Slave ships turned up and took the entire village. I don't think not one single person ever came back to that village who was ever taken from it. And who were the slave ship owners? The KM Mafia. The percentage of slave owners compared to the population, it was something like the KM Mafia, or a certain religion that's based on that, was something like 3,400% to 1 to, you know, virtually 0.4% to the other, population wise. So one group of people had 3,000% of all the slaves and the ships. I'm sorry, tangent, and it's not for, you know, but it's reality, isn't it? It's reality. And then they decided to stop the official slavery and went into debt slavery, which we're currently under, financials, which is kind of where the tangent comes round and kicks us in the arse. And we're now under debt slavery. We're slaves to debt. The chains that were physical are now up here in the societal construct of the bankers controlling us. They always did. But, you know, the metaphorical chain has been taken off our necks and our ankles and put into our wallet. But the UK paid reparations to the slave owners, and I think it was only in 1985. So this reparation went on for hundreds of years, a good 100 years or more, I don't know how long, very long time. You'd have to look up when the slave trade was abolished and the reparations happened. But the Khazarian Mafia, who were the majority slave traders, are also the bankers, stopped the war, or stopped the slavery, sorry, and gave themselves a nice bonus and paid themselves out for being slave owners, and got the goyim of the UK, the useless eaters, put them into debt slavery via the chains to pay off the debt for them no longer having to have the shackles physical, just to the mental. What a con. what a Ponzi scheme that is. So yeah, I ain't a fan of the banks. I shared today an article about the Basel 3 or whatever it is that's coming in, and how the Bank of England, another Rothschilds or KM controlled central bank, the world's full of them, has delayed it. And they've delayed it to give the banks time to work on their bail-in procedure. Now, in England we had a financial issue, and the British government came in, spent the British taxpayers' money and bailed the banks out. 2008. Interesting that Rishi Sunak, who then became later the Prime Minister, was one of those highly involved in the crash of the financial system at that time, and was rewarded by being put in as Prime Minister of the UK to oversee the next run up to the crash. You know, you couldn't make it up. Now, they're talking about bail-ins. Now, this is very important. In 2008, there's bailouts. Very interesting side note, the amazing UK government has just sold the last of the bank shares from the bailout that they did, and the last sale of them they lost £10.5 billion. So the UK has lost in one share option sale £10.5 billion from the banks, from the Bailins, let alone the money they lost in setting it up and the other shares that they sold. It's not small potatoes, is it? And remember, in the UK, they took away the winter fuel payments for the old age pensioners so they could freeze to death, so they could save £1 billion, but they can then blow 10 on just selling something and losing it. Money's an illusion. Anyway, a bail-in. The bail-in is fundamentally the bank takes your money. You see, the money in the bank that you put in the bank, and this is worldwide, doesn't matter where you are, once you give it to the bank, the bank then owns your money. You are an unsecured creditor to the bank. You don't deposit anything. It's actually against the law for a bank to take a deposit, have a deposit account. They may call it that, but it's actually just words. You give your money to the bank. You're an unsecured creditor. The bank owns all your money. Go in, try and take a load of cash out. Ain't going to happen. Try and purchase something that the bank don't want you to at the moment. Ain't going to happen. Yeah? So when the banks crash, or they have the reset, the RV that's coming, could be October, could be end of October. When this reset comes, whichever language you want to call it, Nazara Dejara, I'm not playing that game. That comes from Ward and Parks. No. 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 We have a reset coming. An RV, a revaluation of some kind. I don't know what they're going to call it, but it's going back to the gold standard and silver standard for sure. That'll be a major part of what comes. And so, from what comes, a lot of the banks are going to go pop because they've created money out of fresh air. And even with the ability to create money out of fresh air and lend it to you with usury, which is interest, which is actually illegal in many countries. The only people it seems to be legal for is the Khazarian mafia. Isn't that crazy? The bank collapses and they take your money, and they pay off their secured creditors, so they pay off their own banks, and they sort each other out first, and then they sort out the middlemen, and what's left, which will be pennies in the pound or cents in the dollar, will then be paid out to you guys, and you guys are going to get nothing. Nothing. Because by that time the hyperinflation would have kicked in and the money's worth nothing anyway. And if you're lucky, you'll be given some bank shares that are worth nothing. And you can try and sell them. Who wants to buy them? Look at the UK government, just lost 10.5 billion. Who wants to buy bank shares at the moment? Nobody. Because they all know what's coming. The big money knows what's coming. So you're going to lose all your money, fundamentally, or the large majority of it. And you'll say, oh, there's insurances, like the FSA in the UK, guarantees insurances and that. Yeah, they do. Have they got enough money to cover every single person's money on every single bank, or the majority of banks? No, they don't. Are they actually going to sort anything out while the revalue goes on? No, they're not. Are they going to offer you anything of value at the end of it? Come on, guys. No. No, they're not. You know, the only real money is gold and silver. And while you've got money sat in the bank, the Khazarian mafia, you're giving the money to the Khazarian mafia, let's be fair, while you've got your money and you're giving it to the Khazarian mafia, or your credits giving it to the Khazarian mafia, they control you and they control everything. When we get the financial crash, pop, you're in trouble. If you own gold and silver, you're your own bank. You've got your own wealth. You hold it in your hand, nothing they can do about it. That's why I'm a component for gold and silver. Silver started to go up, the Khazarian mafia jumped on it, stopped it going up. They've got so many bits of paper that they've sold for, I think it's 800 bits of paper for every physical ounce of silver they hold, and it could be getting worse because the silver, physical silver is going through the roof and they're having to deliver. And as they deliver the silver, then it means there's less physical silver in the vaults, and so the piece of paper that you hold saying that you own a piece of silver then gets devalued to 900, 1,000 to 1 ratio. And again, fundamentally, your certificate of silver or your certificate of gold is worth nothing, because when the revaluation comes, they'll offer you the old currency that's been going to the moon via hyperinflation. They'll be worthless. Now, when I talk about debt slavery, in the UK, if you work for a company, they pay your wages into the bank. Remember, a wage is only earned by a slave. So your wages go into the bank. So you work all week or for a month, and the credits you've earned go to the bank, and you don't own that money. Think about it. You don't own the money. You're an unsecured creditor. You then have to ask permission of the banks to have your money back. You get paid £2 grand a month, go in there and say, I want my £2 grand out the bank. You ain't going to get it. Because slaves don't get paid, do they, like that? You may have to wait 2 or 3, 4 days to get your money and prove what you want the money for. Seriously. So, yeah, the money thing is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and worse and worse and worse. Look after yourselves and make sure you're in the right position. And if you don't believe anything I say, you do your research. Please do your research. You know, there's a guy on YouTube called Andy Sheckman. He owns Miles Franklin Bullion. Very knowledgeable guy. There's another guy called Minako64. A guy called Mario. Got a cute little dog. He does daily stuff on finances. It's worth getting into, guys, and understanding, because the situation we're now coming into, this is the opening doorway. You know, you look at all the tarot readers, it's all building up, the energies are there. I can feel it, it's off the charts. And sooner or later that bubble's going to pop. Make sure you're well looked after, guys. Beautiful famille, make sure you're looked after. Because if you think, oh, I'm all right because I've got loads of money in the bank, you've got loads of nothing. Loads of nothing. The unsecured creditor in the bail-in. Look up bail-in, look at the terms of it. There was a bank in America that went pop and they bailed that in. Everybody lost their money. With that, I'm going to go. But love, light and blessings, everybody, and I'll catch up with you very soon. Please like, share and subscribe. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much for all the support and all the gifts and donations. It really is appreciated. With that, bye bye everybody.